So hello everybody and welcome back to 100 Days of Code with me, Lilly Code. Today is day 35 and we're continuing on with our Redux implementation within our React project to manage the state. So we're using Redux to track the state within our application. So let's just continue on with this here now. So we have this remove from item, which is a reducer that we can use to update this particular slice, the cart slice. So when we want to have a look at the state that's being managed by this cart slice, which is tracking the state of this particular cart object, we can do these different functions on it or dispatch these different reducers. So one of them is add item to cart, where we take in the previous state and run an action. And then one of the other reducers we have here, one of the functions that can be ran by calling dispatch, is the remove item from cart. So we're just going to flesh this out and actually say what this should be. So what we want to happen in here is we want to declare a constant called id, and this is going to be the action.payload. So what's coming in here, so the id of the item that has come in that we want to remove eventually. So we could have more than one of this particular item within the array, so we need to check for that and just check how many of this item do we have. So to do this, we'll create another constant called existing item and equal this to state dot items dot find, and we want to look for the item with that ID. So we'll take each item in the array and go through them and check if item dot ID is equal to the ID, and then if it is, we can get rid of this. So we'll say if existing item is equal to 1, so dot quantity is equal to 1. So if there's only one of those, quantity is equal to 1. So in the case that we have one of these items, we want to remove it. So state.items is equal to state.items filter and item. We're going through each of the items and checking if the item ID is not equal to the item here. So if the existing item quantity is equal to 1, if we have one of them, we want to make sure that we don't have another one. Okay, so item ID does not equal ID. Okay, and then we just want an else block as well to capture the other fallback method. So in the case that we have an existing item with a quantity that's equal to run 1, we want to do the first thing we have in here, state.items is equal to state.items.filter, and check for each item that the item ID does not equal the ID of the existing item that's coming in, the ID of the item that's coming in. So else we want to get existing item dot quantity and just take one away from that, so reduce one of them. So great, okay, and then we can add in a couple of commas. Oh yeah. So this needs to be equal to something, so this can be cake slice is equal to create slice, and the name of the slice is cart So cart slice, sorry, not cake. I don't know where I got cake from. Cart. And then just because we have named this and we're going to want to use this elsewhere to track the state of this cart, we're going to actually export this as well. And then we also need to export the actions when we have when we're managing the state of this in Redux. We export the actions as well, so we can also use that elsewhere then. So this should be a semicolon. I don't know why that's giving out. Oh, that should be minus minus, not equals equals. So like that, I shouldn't have any problems. And I just also want to export the constant of the cart actions. Cart actions is equal to cart slice dot actions. Actions, cool. And then what else do we have? So it appears I have something wrong in this file still. So let's figure out what it is. Okay, so it seems like something is up here. So just from having a quick look, I can see here that there's these two brackets on the same level. So this one is matching up with this one here. That's fine. Well, no, this is actually matching with this one up here. So I think we have an extra curly bracket. That might be all it is. So if we get rid of this, that's now in line with that one. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay. And okay, our error is gone. So cool. We are continuing on. Okay, yeah, so we just need to actually put this together with the rest of our other slicers. So we have our index.js, which is bringing together all of our different slicers. So we'll import our new cart slice in here. There we go. And we also just want to pass in that reducer into this reducers object, which is holding the various reducers that we have. So then we have our cart reducer, which is our cart slice dot reducers, or dot reducer, and this gives us access to both of those reducer functions in there. So first of all, in order to see this in action, I just want to actually create products to show as well. So we have to do that first. So down here in the product.js file, which is in our shop, I think, yeah. So in order to actually display something with regards to these products, we are going to have to create a dummy array or something to just show these different products when we're looping over the product item there. Well, we're not even looping, we're just saying we just have a product item showing here, but what we want to do is loop over all of the product items and display them. So first of all, we create a dummy array just to create some data that we can display. So we'll call this dummy products. and this is just going to be an array. So we can equal that to an array. And then it's going to be an array of objects. So in here we will have our various properties that we need when we want to use an individual product or display an individual product. So we have our ID, and we'll call this P1 or product 1. Then we also want a price. We'll give it a price of 6. This is just a number it's expecting, so you can just pass in the number. And then a title. So the title will be my book. And then a description. So description, my favorite book. Cool. And we just want to format this a little bit, and then we're going to copy this so we have a few different products. So ID, price, title, description, and these are the things that we're actually expecting. I'll go and show you where we're expecting these now in a moment. So we're expecting this data. So if I just copy and paste this, we will have a couple of different products there. Okay, hi guys, sorry about that. I don't know how long I was frozen for, but gonna just keep going here. Okay, so now we have our dummy products, and when we are showing each of our product items, we're using these dummy products that we've set up in our array up here. So that's okay. And then within our product item container here, what we want to do is allow the addition of items to the cart. So we're going to create a new handler in order to add items to the cart. So we'll declare our const add to cart handler, which is going to be a function, an arrow function, so like so. And we need a few things in here as well in order to do this. So some of the things we're going to need is we're going to have to import use dispatch. So we will import dispatch, and this is going to be from React Redux. Yeah. And we also want to import the cart actions, and we want to import this from our store. Yep. And cart slice. So what we'll do is then we will run in here dispatch, and this is what runs those reducer functions. So we'll call dispatch and pass it cart actions, and we want to literally just run the add item to cart within the cart actions in the cart slice. So add item to cart, and I will just close this off, and let's make sure that that's exactly what this is called over in our slice file. So in our cart slice, and we have remove item from cart and add item to cart. So that's perfect. The dispatch tells React or Redux which of the reducers to run. So when you call dispatch, then you pass it one of the reducers names, and it will run this function for you and have state tracking when you're calling that function. So we want to remember what the previous items in our cart were and add a new item to the cart in this instance. Okay. So we also need to pass this data, obviously, because at the moment we're just calling an empty function. So we want the price and the title. We want to send all the data. So we'll actually just create a new object to hold our different props. that will just make this a bit easier. So here we go, we have our constant with our title, price and our description. That's equal to the props, so that's perfect. And then we want to actually utilize them in here. So we'll open up, create an object within this function, and we want to pass it certain things. So an ID, a title and a price. And now we can actually use this add to cart handler when we click on the button. So down here when we're adding to cart, we can add on click and run this on click of that button now, our handler, which will actually save those items. So on click is equal to an object like this, and we pass in the name of the handler just like that. Okay, so then what we want to take care of as well is within our cart slice here, we also want to make sure that when we update an item, we also increase the amount, how many items was in there. So if we do not have the existing item, we still want to increase the quantity by 1. So we also need to update total quantity, so we need to take care of that. So we'll declare another const, or no, we'll say state dot total quantity and just add 1 on here. And the same goes for when we're removing an item from the cart. We also want to just remove the cart, reduce the cart by 1. So here we also need to get the total quantity of the cart and just minus 1 from the total quantity. So we'll save that as well. And then we're having some issues with cart slice. This has been here for a while. So line 12, let's check it out now. So we have our item. Okay. ID is not defined on line 13 of a different file, product.item, and then new item is not defined. So we're just figuring out what's going on here. So it's telling me new item is not defined, which it isn't. So what we want to do is when we're adding an item to the cart, this is the particular item we're adding here. This item and the action.payload is the state of the current item coming in. So that's okay, but this is the item that we want to actually add to the cart. So rather than being called item here, this should be new item, because this is our new item coming in. So we'll just copy new item.id down here, and this should be the name of this particular thing because it's our new item that's coming in. And then existing item should be the thing that we already had. So yes, so if there is an existing item, the existing item is in the case that we go through all of our particular items one by one and check if the item, for each item, we loop over each thing and we're going to call it an item. And then if the item.ie that we're on at the moment is equal to the new item.id, well then we know we have an existing item. So that should be fine. So where is it not defined? On line 31, cart slice. Let's come down here. So I spelled existing wrong. So here I have it exiting. So existing, that should be existing. And now that error should go away. Yes, no wonder you couldn't find exiting item. And then, so on line 34. Okay, so yeah, spelled it wrong in multiple locations. That's okay. And then we still have the error that in product item.js on line 13, ID is not defined. So on line 13, product item, okay. So when we're adding an item to the cart, we should be able to just pass through ID, title and price like this. So our cart actions is here, and that's our cart slice dot actions. Here's our add item to cart, what the state and the action. Okay, so we have item ID. So should it be item ID actually, not just IDs? Because when we're passing in a new item, we have called the ID item ID. And then here, we're just calling ID the ID of the thing that's coming in, because we're just interested in identifying it in order to delete it. So, okay. So I think that this should be item ID. So let's just check if that is in fact what it's waiting for. So no, it's not looking for item ID. Oh, well, I need to actually pass them through, because at the moment, where is it getting this information from if I haven't passed anything through? So I can go back to ID, and this should be props, because it's not actually accepting anything here. And then the props that are coming in is the title, price and description. So that's what I think is happening now. Okay, so one thing we want to do now is within our cart here, when we're actually tracking the state here, we want to use a selector in order to switch the state and remember the state of our cart. So what we're going to do is, in order to access the cart reducer from within this cart button component, we want to add use selector in here, and we'll track the total quantity by calling the cart, the state of the cart, from the cart store that we have created from our cart slice. So not our cart store, sorry, our cart slice, which is the same thing. The cart slice is the store and it's for the cart. So here we will just create a new constant. So we'll say const, and this is going to be our cart quantity is what we want to track this as, and this is going to be use selector from React Redux. And if we just undo that, so use selector, and I just want the name like so, yeah, and it's automatically imported it there for us, so that's great. And then I open up my curly brackets, and I'll just take in the current state, and what I want to do is get the state dot cart dot total quantity dot total quantity like that. And then I2 and now what we want to do is, rather than displaying just a hard-coded number here, we can actually display that cart quantity. that we're tracking the state of using our use selector. So I'll use my open and close and curly parentheses here, and I can just add that variable name, which will show me the actual quantity when we use these curly brackets like this, rather than displaying the string or anything like that. It gives you the value stored within that. So if we save now, that will give us our cart quantity on the page. Okay. So the product item, the ID on line 13. So ID yeah, so okay, so this shouldn't take in props here. I thought it should, but it doesn't look like it should. So, and then, but where it's actually getting these from is the props. So, oh, well, we're not passing in an ID first of all. Okay, so we just need to actually pass an ID into our props here, and that's why I can't find the ID. Okay, cool. And then at the moment we have nothing in our cart, although that should dynamically update. So there's something wrong at the moment with our store UI slice, but that's okay. We'll just go back for the minute. Okay, so add item to cart is not a function. Cool. So we're getting a problem with our add item to cart function. So let's just go and check our cart slice. Okay. And that is what we have called it. So okay, we'll just keep watching for a moment, because I have a feeling this is going to all become very apparent very soon. So I'll just keep watching. Have some tea.